We're renovating your childhood bedroom for the baby. Then a $34,000 charge appeared. Hi, I'm Freddie. I'm 29. And last month, my family tried to steal $34,000 from me by forging my signature to renovate my own bedroom for someone else's baby. Emily never knocked. Not when we were kids, not when we were adults. So it wasn't weird that she just strolled into my room holding paint samples like she was filming a home makeover segment. We're renovating your room for the baby, she said, all breezy confidence, like this wasn't a sentence that should have come with warning sirens. I was halfway out of my work uniform, pants undone, shirt tossed on the chair, and I still smelled like fire and wet plaster. I'd just gotten home from a 24-hour shift. The kind where you haul a family of 4 out of a smoke-choked stairwell, spend half the night doing CPR on a guy's dad in the street, and eat dinner out of a vending machine. What? I asked, genuinely wondering if I'd heard her wrong. Emily smiled like she was being generous. We're thinking sage green walls. Cozy but modern. The clouds on the accent wall are adorable. I found it on Pinterest. Gender neutral. I looked over her shoulder. My dad stood down the hallway with a mug of coffee and that familiar checked-out look like feelings cost extra. Mom hovered behind him like she was hoping someone else would handle the fallout. I blinked. Where am I supposed to sleep? Emily laughed. You'll figure something out. You're resourceful. My eyes landed on my dad. He gave me a half shrug. Family expands. That was it. That was my eviction notice. No conversation. No warning. Just, sorry, the baby's coming, so get lost. Never mind the fact that I'd been paying $2,400 a month to rent that room. Never mind the fact that I was their son. Not a guest. Not a lodger. Their actual son. I stood up slowly. My muscles ached in that specific, gritty way firefighters know, like the smoke still clinging to your bones. But what hurt worse was the heat crawling up my neck. Not fire heat. Not adrenaline heat. This was betrayal heat. Humiliation heat. I pay you, I said, voice low. $2,400 a month. For this room. Emily was already waving her samples like they were holy. And you're barely even here. You work all the time. Yes, I said flatly. Because I'm a firefighter. I literally run into burning buildings. She rolled her eyes. Here we go. I looked at my dad again. Seriously? Figure it out. He repeated. I did. I walked past them, pulled out the emergency duffel I kept in the linen closet, and started packing. My mom's voice followed me down the hall, tight, sweet, desperate. Freddie, come on. Don't make this a thing. It is a thing. I said, grabbing my boots. Where are you going? My dad asked like it was a trick question. I'm moving out. You're acting like we kicked you out. Emily snapped. You did. No one stopped me. No one apologized. No one even offered the basement until I was halfway down the stairs, duffel on my back, fury in my chest. And when they did, they acted like it was a favor. The basement. The one with the mold and the leaky window and the dead mouse under the old treadmill. I walked out that night and never went back. The next morning, my phone rang. Contractor. Hi, this is Brad with Northridge Renovations. Just checking. Who's paying for the $34,000 nursery build? The deposit bounced. My stomach dropped so hard I nearly threw up. Sorry, I said. Who signed that contract? You did, Brad said. Maxwell Carter. I closed my eyes. My signature. My email. My bank card. I knew exactly what they'd done. And I was done being quiet. I was shaking when I hung up. The kind of shaking you get when your body can't decide if it's more furious or disgusted. I stared at the phone for a long second, like maybe it would apologize. Like maybe this was all just a bad dream and I'd wake up back at the station, someone handing me a cup of burnt coffee and telling me I snored through roll call. But no. I was wide awake. I opened my banking app. There it was. A declined charge for $8,500. Attempted just after midnight. They hadn't even waited a full day after I left. I jumped up from Luis's couch and started pulling on yesterday's jeans. My buddy looked over from the kitchen, cereal spoon in his mouth. Everything good? My family forged my signature on a $34,000 renovation, I said. He blinked. Okay. So that's a new one. I drove straight to the house. 12 minutes. But it felt like 12 hours. My hands were locked on the wheel, knuckles white, every breath tight in my chest like I was going back into a fire I barely made it out of. Brad was already there. Crew in boots standing by his truck. Rolled up blueprints under one arm. The guy looked confused, like he just walked onto a reality show he didn't sign up for. My mom opened the front door before I even got out of the car. Of course she did. She probably had the blinds half open with binoculars, watching. She smiled like she hadn't tried to rob me last night. Freddie, hi, sweetheart. We were just going to call you. I walked right past her. My dad was in the kitchen pretending to read the paper. Emily was at the table drinking a green smoothie and scrolling on her phone like she wasn't the architect of this disaster. If you're here to yell, don't, she said without looking up. I'm stressed. I turned to her. You used my name. You used my bank card. There's a contractor in our front yard with an invoice for $34,000 in my name. She looked up and actually had the gall to roll her eyes. Okay. And I didn't sign anything. My dad lowered the paper like it was the most annoying plot twist he'd ever read. Keep your voice down. You committed fraud, I said. My mom flinched like I'd slapped her with the word. Freddie, don't say things like that. It's not fraud. We just used your info. I stared at her. You used my email. My name. My bank account. That's fraud. Emily stood up, arms crossed. You live here. You're part of the household. Not anymore, I said. I moved out last night. Remember? Because you kicked me out. It's not like we kicked you out. My mom said, tone syrupy. We just needed the room. For a baby. Emily added. You don't even use it. I laughed once. Short and sharp. I used it enough to get charged $2,400 a month for it. My dad finally stood. Tried to loom. You owe us. We raised you. Oh, that line? I paid you. I snapped. For 2 years. That's $57,600. You didn't raise me. You rented me. The silence that followed? That told me everything I needed to know. I turned, walked outside to Brad, and said the words I'd been choking on since he called. I didn't authorize this. That signature is fake. And I'm not paying a cent. From behind me, I heard Emily burst out the front door. Are you kidding me? No. I was finally not kidding anymore. Brad's face changed the moment I said the word forged. His whole body language shifted, blueprints dropping to his side, crew guys behind him standing up straighter like maybe this was about to turn into a legal thing they didn't want part of. I held out my phone. Here. Look. The email thread from Northridge Renovations. Estimate. PDF contract. Signature field. All timestamped. All from my email. All accessed from the same IP address. My parents' Wi-Fi. Brad squinted. So, you're saying this isn't your signature? It's not even close. I said. And the card number? That's mine. They saved it. Without asking. Behind me, the front door creaked open again. Freddie. My mom called out, doing the full public relations tone. Can we talk inside, please? Privately? No, I said. We're doing this in daylight. Brad gave a small awkward cough. Look, I don't want to get in the middle of. You already are, I said. Just don't start work. Don't touch anything. Emily stormed onto the porch, barefoot in pajama pants like she was the victim here. This is so ridiculous. You're making a scene. I'm making truth. I snapped. You committed identity fraud and tried to stick me with a $34,000 bill because you wanted Pinterest walls. Brad backed away, muttering, Gonna go talk to my crew. Emily stepped closer, face flushed. Do you know how much stress I'm under? I'm pregnant. That's not a disability. I shot back. It's a baby. You chose to have one. I didn't choose to pay for it. Her mouth dropped open. You're supposed to be the reliable one, she said, like that was some kind of moral crime. No, I said calmly. I was just the quiet one. That's not the same. My dad finally joined the scene like a grumpy stage manager trying to close the curtain on a show he didn't like. You're embarrassing the whole family. I turned, really looked at him. I ran into a burning house last week, I said. Drag a guy out while the floor collapsed behind us. I didn't flinch. But this is worse. Because that guy was grateful. You just see me as a walking ATM with a turnout jacket. My mom's voice got soft again, the classic move. The gentle guilt. Honey, please don't do this. It's just a misunderstanding. No, I said. A misunderstanding is when you use the wrong measuring tape. This is a felony. Emily made a noise, like I'd just called the cops. And maybe I would. Because at that point, the full weight of it hit me. They really thought they could get away with this. That I'd shrug and say fine and hand over the money because family expands and I was resourceful and apparently didn't deserve a room to sleep in anymore. So I pulled out my phone again. And I did something I'd been scared to do for 2 years. I canceled the automatic transfer labeled Brent, parents. The screen popped up. Are you sure? I hit yes. Behind me, Emily gasped like I'd just kicked a puppy. You can't just stop paying. I just did, I said. And I turned to Brad. Still need a name for the invoice? Brad looked over my shoulder at the chaos unfolding, then back at me. Not anymore, he said. We're out. He waved to his crew. Pack it up. And just like that, for the first time in a long time, I was the one walking away. I didn't go far that day. Just back to Luis's apartment with a six-pack of disbelief and a brain on fire. He handed me a paper plate of leftover pasta and said, So, your family committed fraud and still thinks you're the problem? Yup, I muttered. Because I had the nerve to say no. Luis nodded slowly. Yeah, you really should have handed over 34 grand and your social security number while you were at it. Bad brother move. I laughed once, bitter. They're gonna come back at me with guilt. The baby. The stress. The whole you owe us because we raised you speech. Luis leaned back in his chair. You don't know anybody for being born. I wanted to tattoo that on my forehead. Over the next 24 hours, the family group chat lit up like a Christmas tree fire. My mom texted 3 times. Mom, we need to talk. I didn't mean to upset you. Mom, you're blowing this out of proportion. Emily's under so much pressure. Mom, you're not being fair. Family means helping each other. I ignored all of it. Until the 4th one hit harder. Mom, do you want your niece to grow up thinking you didn't care? That one landed. It reached that soft spot in me. The one that still believed maybe, deep down, they were good people who just made a bad choice. And then I remembered Emily standing in my doorway. Paint swatches in hand. Already halfway through renovating my life without asking. I remembered my dad sipping his coffee like my eviction was a boring conversation. And I remembered Brad's voice on the phone. So, who's paying? Me. They all assumed it would be me. Like it had always been. I texted back. Freddie. I'm not paying for the renovation. I'm not paying rent anymore. My name was used without consent. Don't contact me about money again. Emily replied in 30 seconds. Emily. Wow. So you're really choosing money over family? I stared at the screen, then typed what might have been the truest sentence I'd ever written. Freddie. No. You chose money over family. You just assumed it was mine. Silence. For a while, I thought that was the end. Until a week later, when I got the call. Unknown number. I answered. This is Officer Ramirez with the local police department. Is this Freddie Carter? My stomach dropped. Yeah? I'm calling regarding a report of identity misuse tied to a home renovation contract. We'd like to ask you a few questions. My mouth went dry. Okay, I said, and sat down hard. Because now it wasn't just personal. It was criminal. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a small gray interview room that smelled like old printer ink and anxious people. Officer Ramirez was calm. Professional. The kind of calm that makes you realize just how not calm you are. He had my printed email thread in front of him. The fake contract. The bounce deposit attempt. Can you walk me through how your name ended up on this agreement? He asked. I took a breath. I didn't sign it. My parents had access to my email. They knew my card number. They must have used an old autofill or copied it straight from their browser. And they had access because I trusted them. I said. He nodded, jotting that down like it was the saddest sentence in the world. So this was part of a larger issue with your family? I hesitated for half a second, then said it out loud for the first time. They were charging me rent, $2,400 a month. For my old room. And then they took it from me anyway. Said they were turning it into a nursery for my sister's baby. The officer's pen stopped. They evicted you and then tried to charge your card for the renovation? Yes. Did you ever authorize them to use your personal information? No. Did you confront them? I did. In person. Told the contractor to stop. Told my family to delete my info. They didn't deny it. He leaned back, tapping the pen against the edge of the folder. We see this a lot with families, he said. They think permission is automatic. That access equals consent. I swallowed the lump in my throat. What happens now? We'll investigate. I'll be contacting them for statements. In the meantime, keep everything. Texts, emails, bank notifications. Don't engage emotionally. Keep it factual. That part hit me harder than I expected. Don't engage emotionally. Because that's all I'd ever done. That night, I clocked in at the station for my next shift. At 2 a.m., we got a call, residential fire. Row house. Smoke visible from the second floor. Kids possibly inside. We rolled out. Sirens cutting through the night like a scream. And when we got there, I didn't hesitate. I went in. Because that's the job. You run toward the smoke. You grab who you can. You don't ask if they deserve it. But when I came out, soaked, coughing, adrenaline still roaring in my chest, I sat on the tailboard of the engine with a water bottle in one hand and a weight in the other. And it hit me. I'd been doing the same thing at home. Running into emotional fires. Trying to save people who kept lighting the match. A month passed. I didn't hear much after that. Just the occasional text from my mom that read more like PR statements than apologies. Mom, we never meant to hurt you. Mom, Emily's really struggling. Mom, we're family. Families get through things. I didn't reply. I was learning what silence felt like when it wasn't a punishment, but a boundary. And then, one Saturday morning, my door shook with 3 sharp bangs. Not a knock. A demand? I looked through the peephole. My mom. Perfect hair. Full makeup. Wearing that wounded martyr face she broke out like fine china when she wanted something. I opened the door but didn't step back. Freddie. She breathed, like I'd just come home from war. Sweetheart. We're in trouble. I leaned against the frame. With who? She hesitated. The contractor. He's threatening legal action. And the police called. Some officer. Ramirez? I nodded. Yeah. Her eyes filled with tears. Real? Fake? I honestly couldn't tell anymore. We didn't mean it like that, she said. We just thought you'd help. I did help, I said. For 2 years. I gave you more than most people pay in mortgage. I didn't complain. I showed up. I worked 24-hour shifts, missed holidays, and never once asked for anything back. She reached out to touch my arm. I stepped away. Emily's stressed. She tried. The baby. Stop. I said it gently but firmly. Don't use the baby as a shield. She flinched. I let the words sit there between us. Because I needed her to hear the next part clearly. You know what hurts the most? I asked. It's not the money. It's that you didn't even ask. You didn't consider I might say no. You just took. My mom looked down. Then up again, eyes glassy. But we're family. I nodded slowly. Family doesn't do that. She searched my face for the version of me who always gave in. Who always bent. But that version of me didn't live here anymore. Then she said the thing that ripped the last bit of hope out of me. But what about the money you owe us? For living there? I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. A short, stunned sound that bounced off the walls. Goodbye, Mom, I said. And I closed the door. No drama. No big speech. Just a click of the lock. That sound, quiet, solid, final, felt better than any argument I could have won. Inside, my apartment was warm. Simple. Mine. No paint samples. No whispered plans to erase me. Just me. Breathing. And for once, it was enough. The quiet that followed was weird. I kept waiting for it to crack open like a trapdoor, expecting some new betrayal, some guilt-laced email, some second-hand lecture from a distant cousin who heard I'd abandoned my pregnant sister. But no. Just peace. Louise came over that weekend with takeout and a folding chair, because I still hadn't bought a couch, and we sat in the middle of my tiny living room like kings in exile. You good? He asked, handing me a carton of lo mein. I looked around. At the scuffed floor. The noisy radiator. The lone coffee mug I kept washing because I still hadn't bought a second. I think so, I said. I think I just didn't know how heavy it was. Until it was gone. He nodded. Family can be heavier than fire. The next week, I got a letter from the contractor's lawyer. Formal. Clear. They were pursuing civil action against the person who signed the contract, which, thanks to my police report and the IP data, they now understood wasn't me. A few days later, a follow-up email from Officer Ramirez. They were opening an investigation. Nothing guaranteed, but serious enough that it wasn't just going to disappear. And then something strange happened. My mom stopped texting. No more guilt trips. No more half-hearted emotional hand grenades. Emily too. Silent. Which was somehow more unnerving. I sat with that silence like it might sprout teeth. Until a coworker said something during a slow night shift that knocked the wind out of me. You're way calmer these days, she said. Something happened? I blinked. What do you mean? You used to always be tense. Like you were waiting for something to go wrong. I hadn't realized how obvious it was. I hadn't realized how much I'd been carrying. Because here's the truth, when you're raised in a house where guilt is currency, you stop checking the price of peace. You just keep paying. Until one day you can't. And you realize you're not broke, you're free. That night I got back to my apartment at 3 a.m. after a call. I dropped my gear. Sat on the floor. And I listened to the silence. No one was taking my door. No one was charging my card. No one was calling my love for them a receipt. It was just me. And for the first time in years I realized. I wasn't waiting for the fire anymore. I'd already made it out. 2 months later, I got the invitation. A baby shower. From Emily. Handwritten in loopy cursive on a pastel card that smelled like overpriced vanilla. The envelope had a sticker on it. Family is everything. I laughed so hard I actually dropped it. Inside, there was a registry link, mostly designer baby gear and high-end nursery furniture. Several of the items were the exact ones from the renovation contract they tried to stick me with. The email said, "We're so excited to welcome baby Carter and appreciate your generosity during this beautiful time." Generosity. That word felt like a punchline now. It wasn't even the ask that got me. It was the assumption. The full-bodied confidence that I'd somehow forgotten everything and would show up with a gift bag and a fake smile, pretending they hadn't tried to rob me blind. I stared at the RSVP card. Checked the box, not attending. Wrote a single word underneath, boundaries. A week later, Emily texted me directly for the first time since the contractor incident. Emily. Wow. So you're really not coming? I didn't respond. Emily. This is your niece. Still nothing. Emily. Unbelievable. You'll regret this when you're old and alone. That one stung, but not for the reason she thought. Because she didn't realize I'd already been alone. Surrounded by people who claimed to love me while they hollowed me out for parts. Now, I was just alone with myself. And honestly, it was better. A few days after that, I got a call from Officer Ramirez. The investigation had moved forward. There'd be a formal warning issued, possibly charges if the contractor pushed harder. He asked if I wanted to proceed. I took a long breath. And then I said, yes. Not because I wanted revenge. But because some fires shouldn't be ignored. Some houses you shouldn't rebuild. Later that week, Luis and I sat on my small couch. Yes, I finally got one, and he asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I thought about it. About my mom's hand on my arm. My dad's silence. Emily waving paint samples like flags of conquest. Sometimes, I said. But then I remember it wasn't family I walked away from. It was debt disguised as love. Luis raised his beer. To new houses. I raised mine. And locked doors. We clinked bottles. And for once, nothing was on fire. Spring rolled in quiet and clean. No surprise charges. No guilt-laced voicemails. No unsolicited renovation attempts. I was living in my own rhythm now. Early mornings at the station. Late nights reading or eating straight out of the takeout box. Every piece of furniture in my apartment was mine, not borrowed, not inherited, not part of some emotional ledger that said you owe us. I hadn't spoken to my parents in over 3 months. No court yet. Just warnings. Officer Ramirez told me the DA might not pursue it further unless the contractor pushed harder. But it didn't matter. The damage was documented. The story had weight now. Not just mine, but legal, provable weight. That did something to me. Made me feel less crazy. More real. One night, I was on duty when a new probie asked casually, "Hey man, you got any siblings?" I hesitated. Technically? Yes. In practice? I used to. I said. She's still alive. We're just not in the same chapter anymore. He blinked. Dang. Sorry. I shrugged. Not your fault. Boundaries make people uncomfortable. Especially the ones who need them. The call radioed in just then. Kitchen fire, single-story residential. Nothing major. But I still suited up with that same pulse in my chest. The one that said, go anyway. That's the thing about this job. You run toward the fire, even when you're tired. Even when you're scared. But at some point, you learn how to tell the difference between a rescue and a pattern. When we got back, I sat on the tailboard again, sweat drying on my neck, boots heavy with ash. I looked out at the city, the lights, the silence between sirens. And I thought about how long I'd been running. Not into fires, but into my family's approval. Into their expectations. Into their version of me. And how every time I got burned, I told myself it was normal. That love was supposed to feel like smoke in your lungs and weight on your back. It's not. Love's not supposed to leave you homeless in your own life. A week later, Emily had the baby. I know because she posted it. Big announcement on social media. Filters, bows, soft lighting, and a caption that read, "Welcome to the world, little one. Surrounded by love. Grateful for family." I didn't feel bitter. Just free. Because I wasn't part of that performance anymore. And honestly, that was the first time in my life where not being invited felt like safety. It's funny how peace doesn't arrive like a big parade. It's quiet. Slow. Creeps in through the cracks after the shouting stops. I still get the occasional message. Not from Emily. She's gone full ghost. Probably still telling everyone I ruined her nursery dreams. But my mom? She sends birthday reminders like nothing happened. "This would be your niece's 2-month mark, smiley face." As if the past 6 months were a sitcom misunderstanding and not an attempted $34,000 identity heist. I don't reply. Because here's the truth. I'm done playing the good son who swallows fire and calls it family. Now I work. I sleep. I cook badly. I've got a window that leaks when it rains and a neighbor who plays trumpet at 10 p.m. for no reason. It's perfect. Because it's mine. And for the first time in years, I've stopped walking on emotional glass barefoot. Louise helped me put up some shelves last weekend. We stood there afterward, arms crossed, looking at our slightly crooked handiwork. "You know," he said, "this place feels like you." I looked around. The framed academy photo. The turnout booths by the door. The tiny key hook labeled home. "It is me," I said. There's a difference between building a life and renting someone else's version of it. I didn't get that before. I do now. And maybe someday, I'll have a family of my own. Maybe not. But if I do, I know exactly what I won't do. I won't confuse love with ownership. I won't trade guilt for obedience. And I'll never, ever, charge my kid rent for a room I plan to repaint behind his back. Because real love has doors you knock on. And walls you respect. 3 months later, I got a letter. Real mail. Not email. Not a text. Handwritten. My full name on the front in my mom's cursive, the same looped lettering she used to write on my elementary school lunch notes. Inside, a folded sheet of stationery, light blue, perfumed. Classic gilt paper. "Freddie. We miss you. Your father won't admit it, but he does too. Emily's doing her best. The baby is beautiful. I think you'd love her. I know things got messy. I know you felt betrayed. But we're family. Family makes mistakes. And we forgive each other. That's what love is. Come home. Let's fix this. Love. Mom." There was a photo tucked in. Emily holding the baby. My father in the background, stiff as a statue. My mom's smile bright enough to fry guilt into every pixel. I stared at it for a long time. And I almost felt that old pull. The "maybe they didn't mean it" instinct. The one that whispers, just let it go. Go back. Be good again. But then I remembered. They didn't apologize. Not really. They wanted reset, not repair. They wanted quiet. Compliance. The return of the Freddy who said yes even when it cost him everything. So I didn't write back. Instead, I slid the letter into a drawer with other things I don't throw out but don't revisit. Not out of spite. Out of choice. I saw Officer Ramirez again a few weeks later. He'd come to the station on a safety consult. Recognized me right away. "You doing okay?" he asked. I smiled. "Better than okay." He nodded. "Glad to hear it." And I realized something in that moment. No one had to believe my side anymore. Because I wasn't on trial. I wasn't trying to prove I was a good son. Or a good brother. Or a good man. I was just living like someone who finally knew where he ended and everyone else began. And for the first time since I was a kid sleeping under a glow-in-the-dark ceiling, I didn't feel like I was waiting to be kicked out of my own life. The first time I saw them again was by accident. Late summer. Grocery store. I was grabbing snacks after a shift, still in my station pants, boots dusty, t-shirt soaked with the kind of tire that doesn't smell good. I turned the corner near the bakery and nearly collided with my mom's cart. She gasped. "Freddy!" She looked exactly the same, and completely different. Same hair, same soft attack smile. But something in her eyes had wilted. She looked older. Or maybe just more real. Emily was with her. Baby in the carrier. No eye contact. She focused on a pack of dinner rolls like they held national secrets. I stood there. Frozen. Not angry. Just braced. "You look thin," my mom said, as if that was the most urgent thing to address. "I look the same," I replied. Awkward silence. Emily still hadn't looked at me. The baby stirred, little hand twitching in sleep. My mom tried to fill the space. "You should come over. We're doing Sunday dinners again. I made your favorite last week, those garlic potatoes you like." "I have plans," I said. "You didn't even hear what day." "I still have plans." She flinched like I'd slapped her with a calendar. Emily finally spoke. Not to me. To the baby. "Let's keep moving." But as they turned to go, my mom's voice softened. I didn't know how to fix it. I paused. That one almost landed. But I met her eyes and said, "You don't fix things by pretending they didn't happen." She nodded slowly, blinking fast. "I just wish you weren't so angry." "I'm not," I said. "I'm done." And I was. Not dramatic. Not cruel. Just done. The kind of done that doesn't require a big exit or one last monologue. Just quiet. They rolled their cart away. I grabbed my pretzels. And when I got home, I put them on my second-hand coffee table and turned on the fan that made that weird clicking noise, and sat in my apartment like I always did. With the windows open and the doors locked from the inside. My space. My name on the lease. My life, finally lived on my own terms. No contract forged. No rent disguised as love. Just me. Breathing like I hadn't in years. Fall came in with crisp air and a sense of something else. Not peace exactly, something better. Stability. Work was steady. Overtime when I wanted it, traded shifts when I didn't. I had a rhythm now. Thursdays off, standing lunch orders with Lise, gym every third day when I wasn't bone tired. My apartment still smelled faintly of burnt garlic from a cooking experiment gone wrong, but it was mine. And no one had tried to repaint me out of it. One evening, we had a multi-unit fire, nasty one. Smoke was chewing through drywall, heat signatures all over the second floor. I was on interior attack, pushing through with a new guy behind me when we heard it, a kid crying. We found him huddled in a closet, clutching a stuffed dinosaur like it was armor. He looked up at me, eyes huge. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded, lip trembling. "I didn't know if anyone was coming." I scooped him up. "Always. We always come." When we got him out and handed him off to EMS, the probie behind me just stood there, helmet tucked under his arm. "You're calm," he said. "Like. Real calm." "How?" I wiped the sweat off my face. "Because this? You can train for. You can control how you move, how you breathe, what you do next. The scary part isn't the fire. What is? Going home to a place that's supposed to feel safe, and realizing it never was." He nodded like he wasn't sure if I was joking or not. I wasn't. Back at the station, I sat on the back steps with a water bottle and watched the sun come up. Orange light spilling through haze. Everything quiet. Heavy. Sacred. I pulled out my phone. There was one unread message in the family group chat. From Emily. Emily. He took his first steps today. No photos. No exclamation marks. Just that. I stared at it. Let it sit there. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything I had to fight. Not guilt. Not anger. Not the ache to fix what was broken. Just distance. The kind of distance you earn. The kind that saves you. I deleted the message. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because that one line, he took his first steps today, was a test, even if Emily didn't know it. Or maybe she did. Maybe it was bait wrapped in sentiment, a soft tug on the old Freddy who showed up for everything, no matter how badly he was treated. But that guy didn't live here anymore. And this wasn't about a baby taking steps. This was about whether I'd take mine backward. I didn't. Instead, I made pasta. Badly. I burned the garlic again. My smoke alarm chirped once in protest, and I opened the window like a pro. Then I sat on my second-hand couch, bowl in my lap, and watched a show I liked without anyone sighing over the remote. No one judging my dinner. No one calling me selfish for staying home. The next morning, a card was slipped under my apartment door. No envelope. Just a folded piece of paper with a baby footprint on the front. Inside. We named him Carter, middle name Frederick. I thought you should know. No signature. No apology. Just that. I stared at it for a long time. I won't lie, it got to me. Not because it was sweet. Because it was calculated. Emily didn't send that to include me. She sent it to pressure me. Naming her child after the brother she tried to scam was just another layer of the guilt cake. I folded the card. Tossed it in the drawer with the others. Because here's the thing no one tells you about healing, you still get cut. You still bleed a little. But the difference is, now you know when to walk away from the knife. Later that night, Luis and I sat out on his stoop. Fall leaves tumbling down like something out of a movie. I think I'm done being angry, I told him. That's good, he said. You holding on to it like a retirement plan. I laughed. Yeah. But I'm not sad either. What are you, then? Clear, I said. Clear enough to know that naming a baby after me doesn't undo what they did. Clear enough to know I don't owe them my forgiveness on their timeline. And clear enough to understand the power in silence. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is not go back. Even when they named the next generation after you. The holidays rolled around before I noticed. No countdown. No family group chat with guilt-laced reminders about traditions. Just cold mornings, station decorations slapped together with duct tape, and Louise trying to convince me to wear a Santa hat on the rig. I didn't. But I brought cinnamon rolls on Christmas Eve. It felt like the right kind of giving. Around noon, my mom called. First time since the grocery store run-in. I didn't pick up. Then she texted. Mom, dinner is at 6. We'll set a plate, just in case. I stared at the message. Not angry. Not even tempted. Because I finally knew what she meant by, we'll set a plate. She wasn't offering a place at the table. She was offering leverage. The idea that I could still come back, slip into my old seat, stay quiet, make it easier on everyone, pretend none of it ever happened. I closed the message. Didn't respond. Instead, I walked to the little coffee shop down the block. The one with the crooked Christmas tree and the barista who always wrote, Freddy the Fire Guy, on my cup. It was open. Quiet. Familiar in a way my childhood home hadn't been in years. I sat near the window and watched people come and go. Some with kids, some alone, some on their 5th coffee like they were running from sleep. And I didn't feel lonely. Because the thing no one tells you is that loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being surrounded by people who expect you to disappear for their comfort. At home, I put on a movie. A dumb one. Something with explosions and bad dialogue. Then I took out a notebook and started writing down everything I wanted for the new year. Nothing dramatic. Just honest. A couch that didn't creak. A weekend road trip. A gym membership I might actually use. More peace. Less pretending. And maybe, if it ever came naturally again, a version of family that didn't require me to light myself on fire just to keep others warm. I didn't know what the next year would look like. But for the first time, I wasn't scared of the quiet. I trusted it. The new year started with rain. Not the poetic kind either, just cold, sideways, soak your socks through your boots kind of rain. I'd just finished a 16-hour shift where someone tried to deep fry a frozen turkey indoors, and I came home smelling like smoke and peanut oil. I peeled off my gear, dumped my bag by the door, and saw it. A letter. Real envelope this time. Tucked under my door like a message in a bottle. It was from my dad. Handwriting blocky. Tight. A few smudges like maybe he'd started over more than once. Freddie. I don't like writing letters. Feels stupid. But your mom said you might actually read this. I messed up. Not going to dress it up. We did wrong by you. I should have stopped it when Emily brought up the room. I should have said no when she wanted to use your name on that contract. I didn't. That's on me. You were right. About all of it. And I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to say it. Out loud. On paper. Because if it matters to you, then I figured I should do it the way you'd believe. I don't know how to fix what we broke. But I hope maybe someday you'll let me try. Happy New Year. Dad. I read it 3 times. Because it didn't sound like him. Not the version I'd grown up with, anyway. The man who always said, "Figure it out," instead of, "I'm sorry." The man who shrugged through storms. But this was an inch. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't reach something deep in me. I didn't respond right away. I didn't know how. I sat with it for a few days, folding and unfolding the letter, tracing the words like they might disappear if I blinked too long. I even dreamed about it, walking into my old house, same furniture, same paint, except this time my dad looked at me and said, "You were never the problem." I woke up in the dark, staring at the ceiling like it owed me an answer. Here's what I've learned about closure. It doesn't come with a bow. Sometimes it's a letter on cheap paper that smells like garage and regret. Sometimes it's silence that finally feels clean. Sometimes it's knowing you could go back, but you choose not to. Because you built something better. Even if it's small. Even if it's just you. I didn't tell anyone about the letter for 2 weeks. Not Louise. Not my captain. Not even the barista who'd started calling me Therapy Freddy, after I gave her a discount fire extinguisher tip and a 5-minute TED talk on emotional boundaries. I wasn't hiding it. I was just protecting it. Because the truth is, when someone who's hurt you finally says I was wrong, your brain doesn't throw a party. It whispers, "What's the catch?" So I waited. Let it sit. Watched how I felt when I saw it in the drawer. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. But I also didn't respond. And maybe that was the most honest thing I could do. Because a real apology isn't a get-out-of-consequences card. It's not a shortcut back into someone's life. It's a doorbell. You ring it and wait. You don't kick the door in with good intentions. Emily sent me another text. Emily. If Dad can apologize, so can you. I actually laughed when I read it. As if my silence was an equal crime. As if not paying for her nursery was on par with stealing my identity. That's when I knew I wasn't ready to see them. Because they still didn't get it. They thought the issue was that things got tense. They didn't understand that the real issue was trust, the kind you can't patch with a family photo and an apology casserole. A few nights later, we got called to a nursing home fire. Small blaze. Contained fast. Mostly smoke. But I remember one thing, this older guy, must have been 90, standing in the hallway with nothing but a blanket and a busted walker, looking me dead in the eyes and saying, "Took you long enough." He wasn't even scared. Just annoyed. And I got it. When you've lived through enough, fires, betrayals, years of doing the right thing while people pick you apart, you stop panicking. You just expect disappointment. And that's what I was working on now. Not forgiving. Not forgetting. But unlearning disappointment as a baseline. I may not have had a family in the traditional sense anymore. But I had a team. A job that made sense. And a life where I didn't feel like someone else's safety net. I was standing on solid ground. Even if it was just the cracked tile of my own apartment. It was still mine. Spring again. The station windows are open. I'm on the roof during downtime, watching the sunset bleed into the skyline like it's got something to say. I haven't written back to my dad. Haven't called. Haven't returned home. But I'm not angry. I'm settled. Not the kind of settled people post about online. The real kind. The kind that lives in your chest. Where silence isn't scary anymore, it's just yours. Sometimes Luis jokes. "You ever think you'll patch things up?" And I tell him the truth. I don't need to. Because I already patched me. I learned that you can love people and still not let them back in. That forgiveness isn't a reunion, it's release. That healing doesn't mean we all sit around the table smiling like none of it ever happened. Sometimes healing means keeping the door locked and sleeping like a baby for the first time in years. I still fight fires. I still walk into smoke for strangers. But I no longer do it for people who set the fire and call it love. And when I come home now, there's no eviction waiting. No paint swatches. Just a door with my name on the lease. And the quiet that comes from finally choosing yourself. And if one day the phone rings and it's them, maybe I'll answer. Maybe I won't. Either way, I'll still be standing in a place that's mine, knowing I didn't owe anyone my peace to prove I was good. I just had to keep it.